Next speaker, Senator Andrew Maynard. And so I think you're obligated to weigh in on Sunday sales, you know.
No comment. Chairman Doyle, Chairman Tabizak, distinguished members of the General Law Committee, thank you for the opportunity today to testify on behalf of Senate Bill 464. I will be brief in my comments. I'm joined by Chris Kepple, an employee of the Cottrell Brewing Company and a strong advocate of Connecticut Beer Trail. I just want to say briefly, it's easy, and especially in this building when we have so many serious and ponderous issues to discuss, and many of which you're going to be addressing later today, to make light of something as sort of whimsical sounding as the Connecticut Beer Trail. But I want to assure you this is a serious effort. We have 5 breweries in the state of Connecticut, 11 brew pubs. They're distributed throughout the state. And I'd call your attention to written testimony submitted by Chris Sullivan, who is the editor of the Ale Street News, which covers all things brewery-related in the state of Connecticut. He outlines on the back of his testimony it's a list of the 5 brew companies and some of the 11 brew pubs around the state, and they're in every part of the state. Our interest here is in a difficult economic time to highlight a growing industry in the state of Connecticut. This is a growing business. It's flourishing, in fact, in many ways, but it's under-promoted. And the Connecticut Beer Trail, which we'll actually, I think, prefer to refer to in the future as the Connecticut Brewery Trail, simply because I think it does a little bit better job of precisely nailing what it is we're trying to promote. Modeled on the Connecticut Wine Trail, it would allow both residents and visitors to the state to know about this very special part of our state economy and highlight, I think, a business, as I say, that's growing and has an enthusiastic following, as I've found now on Facebook and on the blogosphere as this bill has come forward. So without further ado, I'll turn the microphone over to Chris Kepple for his testimony, with your indulgence.
Good morning. Thanks for letting me speak today. I'll just read my statement, which I have also prepared a map of the breweries and the brew pubs throughout the state just to illustrate the geographical range that the brewing industry covers, and a mock-up for just to illustrate what a Made in Connecticut logo could look like, sort of following in the footsteps of the Connecticut Grown campaign to call attention to the things that we manufacture here in our state. The purpose of this bill is to promote the manufacture and sale of Connecticut-made beer, to highlight for local area residents and visitors the unique and outstanding craft beer culture of the Nutmeg State, and to identify for residents and visitors alike brews genuinely made in the state of Connecticut. We have some brands and beers coming in from out of state and out of country, branding themselves after local places and local destinations in the state. That is a pain to the Connecticut breweries. The Connecticut Brewery Trail and Made in Connecticut logo are hoping to follow in the footsteps of the successful Connecticut Wine Trail and Connecticut Grown campaign. This under-promoted segment of the Connecticut economy has traditionally been a tiny fraction of the state's overall beer consumption. Recent growth trends in the craft beer industry across the nation and in the state specifically have given us encouragement, us being these local artisan breweries and brew pubs. These small breweries compete against some very large and powerful global corporations in the marketplace every day and really do need the support of our home state. Last year, in an economic downturn, my brewery, Cottrell Brewing, hired another full-time brewer and part-time salesperson and grew its sales in Connecticut by over 30%. New England Brewing, who couldn't be here today, grew its sales by over 40% and is hiring 2 new employees. Old Burnside grew over 20% and hired another part-time employee. And Hooker Brewing probably has the most exciting expansion underway of all of us. They've hired 5 new employees, grew 20%, and they're doing a capital kind of expansion in their facility. Why support Connecticut beer? Connecticut breweries add to the unique character and the culture of our state. They contribute to making the state a unique and exceptional destination for visitors and residents alike. For most New England states, their beer is a matter of state pride. We should embrace this model here in Connecticut, and I'm kind of referring to the Vermont phenomena and New Hampshire. In addition, local beer is greener, cutting carbon footprints and emission. Connecticut breweries ship their beer locally, using less fuel and helping to keep the air cleaner and our roads less congested. Connecticut breweries hire here, we live here, we play here, and we inspire here, giving generously to local charities and acting as active community partners. In addition, when you purchase a local product, not just beer, but any local agricultural product, a greater portion of the revenue stays in the community and in the state, up to 2/3. So that's a direct economic benefit for all of us. What if, in the future, Connecticut breweries could make up 5 to 10% of the beer consumed, rather than the 1 to 2% it is right now? It would certainly become an important ingredient to the state's economic well-being in the future. So I hope you can find it in your hearts to support a Connecticut Brewery Trail and the creation of a Made in Connecticut state logo. Let's take pride in our local breweries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before, I just want to ask a quick question for background. I don't know if the Senator or Chris, you want to answer it. The proposed bill is basically one sentence. If you could just give us some background, what is actually the goal of legislation? Is it just a map? I'm not sure what it is.
Well, it would be largely to follow in the footsteps of the Connecticut Wine Trail, which has, in concert with the Connecticut the Commission on Culture and Tourism, has put together signage directing motorists to member wineries on the wine trail. Other things that have been done, and we could discuss this more fully. But I know the wine trail has a passport book. The idea being that as you attend different wineries throughout the state over time, you get your passport stamped, and I think they have some incentive bonus or drawing as a result of that. Certainly, we want to underscore the idea that this is not about seeing to it that people hit every brewery on one afternoon. We're not trying to encourage people to go quickly around the state, and neither has the wine trail sought to do that. It's really just sort of about regionally promoting nearby breweries and brew pubs, and also attracting out-of-state tourists to it.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members? Representative Muniz.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Thank you for your testimony this morning. Either Senator or Chris, I'm not sure who can answer this. I do know with the Connecticut Wine Trail, for example, there is a cost associated with the signs. Is this something, and I don't know if there's a brewery association, but is this something, unfortunately because in light of the budget, is this something that the breweries would be willing to take upon themselves as a cost for the creation of the signs, replacement, and or maintenance of the signs, if this were to pass?
I think that at this stage we're open to exploring either route or possibly a sharing of the costs between the state. We are looking for the state to give us some support and hopefully as a reciprocal relationship, seeing that if they support this growing industry that it will it'll create benefits for the state long-term and short-term economically. But it's something we haven't really, we would love for the state to pay for the signs the same as I believe they did for the wine trail. But if it had to be a shared cost or the breweries had to shoulder the cost, that's something we could consider.
Thank you. And just one additional question. Is there any other states that you know of that has a similar trail?
I certainly know that in Vermont and in New Hampshire that visiting breweries is a kind of a big part of the cultural experience there, and there is signage. I don't know the origin of that signage or whether it's state-sponsored or brewery-sponsored, but it is kind of part of the New England experience to make the destinations available through signage.
If I may add, and now in my capacity as chairman of transportation, I also know that we have some significant restrictions on the signage that can go on the roadways. So part of this effort is simply to permit additional signage that would be otherwise, sort of a bit of a challenge to get through DOT's rather rigorous sign procedures.
As you're learning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Reed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just sort of expanding on that a bit, I mean, it sounds as if this would just be the seed ingredients to create a much more aggressive, proactive marketing campaign that would lead to advertising, belonging to New England websites, and that kind of thing. I think it would be helpful to all of us if you had some sort of dollar figures and kind of bang for the buck equation so that we could really see what you think it would generate.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that's a very, very good suggestion. Obviously, we wanted to get the idea forward, put it out there, see what kind of response. And I have to say the response has been very heartening from, particularly, there's an extraordinary beer Chris, what are you, the artisan beer culture? This is an amazingly growing area. I know in my own town and area there have been 4 or 5 different places that have had beer dinners. It's a lot of good commerce for local restaurants that are oftentimes held in the off-season when you have sort of the doldrums in the early winter or early spring. There's a multiplier effect that comes out of just a higher awareness. And this group is very active on the web. There's as I say, the Ale Street News is one outlet where you can see, and I just happened to get a lot of email recently after we proposed this bill from all over the state where people are very excited about it. So I think the multiplier is there really to benefit us, and we'll try to get a better handle on what the cost benefit might be.
Thank you, Senator Maynard. And I want to say thank you to my constituent, Chris Sullivan, for publishing the Ale Street News. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Witkos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, or good morning. The 15 breweries or brew pubs that are listed on the proposed trail map, how were those businesses chosen to be here? Or are you part of an organization where you opted in for that, or would there be other ones that are maybe located in the state of Connecticut that don't appear on the map?
This is the complete current list of breweries in the state, and we chose to include the brew pubs who brew beer in their restaurant and then serve their own brewed beer to their customers as well as food. We are different entities, brew pubs and commercial breweries. There are only 5 commercial breweries in the state right now, meaning we do not have a restaurant and we do not serve and sell beer at our facilities. But I think this is the number. It's a small number. It's a kind of burgeoning beer culture in the state. Our brewery has been in existence for 14 years, going on 15. And sometimes I think Connecticut is disconnected from the New England experience in the sense that we don't have a celebrated beer culture. But we're here hopefully inspiring a change to that.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come out. It's certainly intriguing, and look forward to getting some other information. And also hear how I looked through my list. I didn't see the tourism folks on here to testify either for or against, and I'd like to hear what their feelings would be as the bill progresses. But thank you very much.
Representative Talleria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. And Chris, thank you very much for your testimony. Just a couple of questions. First of all, I think it's a great idea. I had the opportunity of going to the old Burnside Brewery in East Hartford this past summer and saw the establishment and the history that goes along with it. And I think it's a great way to showcase Connecticut in another way like we do our wineries. But my question to you is, would you be selling beer at these breweries while people were visiting them? Would they be able to purchase beer and take it home?
Currently, under Connecticut state law, breweries are allowed to sell up to 8 liters, I believe, when we give a tour and a tasting. So we are not allowed to sell like a package store if you just come for a visit. And not all the Connecticut breweries are engaged. It depends on their local zoning laws whether they're selling or not. But the breweries are allowed to, and I believe that the brew pubs now are allowed to sell growlers when you come to eat at a brew pub. But when you visit a commercial brewery, if you take a tour and do a tasting, which I think is an under 2-ounce tasting, you're allowed to buy up to the limit, the state limit, which is usually people buy less than that, and take a sample, or not a sample, but take a purchase home.
Okay, so with that, like the Connecticut wineries, would you be allowed to purchase that beer on Sundays?
I guess that's up to you guys, right?
Okay, because I know at the Connecticut wineries you can purchase bottles of wine and take them home and drink them.
And we